Well, the next federal election is still likely a few years away, but some young people in this country are getting a head start. They're frustrated when it comes to issues like climate change, and rightly so. And they want to have a say now. So a group of children and youth have filed an application at the Ontario Superior Court of Justice to challenge the voting age in Canada, arguing that the Canada Elections Act, which prevents citizens from under the age of 18 from voting in federal elections, they say it is unconstitutional. Joining us are Parker Boot-Quackenbush, a 16-year-old from London, Ontario, Diego Christiansen-Barker, a 17-year-old from Campbell River, BC, and Cheryl Milne, executive director of the David Asper Centre for Constitutional Rights at the University of Toronto. Thank you all so much for being here. So I'm going to start with you here, Parker. So you're from London, Ontario. You're 16. I imagine you're in high school. How did this come together? Do you meet other young people online and say, we want to do something, we want the right to vote? Because this is a network of youth and children and young adults, really, from across the country.
Well, I heard about it after Cheryl had reached out to me asking if I wanted to be included in this whole wanting to lower the voting age act. I met everyone through this whole act, and I hadn't known anyone before this, but I'm really glad I met people. It's great to have other people wanting to, lower the voting age and having the same beliefs that I have.
Mm-hmm. And Parker, right now, do you feel as a 16-year-old that you're unheard? You don't have a voice?
Honestly, yeah, I don't think I have a voice. And especially when it comes to politics, the government really affects youth, and many people vote for what they have in their best interest, not for the youth of Canada. And getting youth to be able to vote will make a huge impact on us.
Mm-hmm. And Diego, you're from Campbell River, BC. Why did you choose to join this initiative? I mean, when you think about it, in the last federal election, I voted for things that will impact you and your peers, and you didn't have a chance to. So what prompted you?
For me, I'd already been involved with a similar organization, but a different one, that's centralized in BC, called Vote 16 BC. So I found out about this challenge through them and attended an information session, did the application, and that brings me here.
Mm-hmm. So, Cheryl, okay, we're going to get you to tie this all together here. So why is the suggestion here, the legal challenge, that this is unconstitutional? What rights are being violated here?
So the challenge is based on primarily two sections of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. The first one is Section 3, which is the right to vote. And so every citizen in Canada has the right to vote in federal and provincial and territorial elections. And that's the only qualification, is citizenship. The other section that we've pleaded is Section 15, which is the right to equality. So everybody has the equal benefit of the law. And one of the grounds upon which they cannot be discriminated against is age. So that's the main thrust of the argument, or those two sections of the Charter. But also what prompted this was the Supreme Court a few years ago in another case made it abundantly clear that if governments want to restrict the right to vote under Section 3, they need to have very good reasons and good evidence to support that. And the young people here just don't think that the evidence is good for keeping the age at 18, that a lot of young people really want to have a say and are very thoughtful and mature and prepared to make decisions that affect them.
As we said just before you joined us here, young people are the future of this country. But Cheryl, as I'm sure you are well aware, your constitutional rights here in this country are not absolute. So I imagine that is the pushback you may get as part of this legal challenge. So what do you say to that?
So governments can limit our rights, that's for sure, but they have to have a very good reason, and they have to have evidence to do so. That's the Section 1 of the Charter and how that works. And with voting, it's a very specific right and very clear that it's only citizens that can vote, but there's no other qualification on that voting right. And many other qualifications have fallen by the wayside over the years through court challenges and through legislative change. And age is kind of the last one that has got sort of historical stereotypes form the basis for restricting the voting age at 18.
So Parker and Diego, I'm going to put this question to you. How young or old should someone be to vote? I mean, when we think of 18, we think of an adult. What age do you think someone can make a decision about what is impacting them in their country and some of the greater issues here in this country, Parker?
Well, I personally think the age 16 at the moment, because at the age of 16, you're legally allowed to move out of your house, like without your parental consent. You can get your license. It's the legal age of consent. So if you're allowed to drive and if you're allowed to have a job, if you're allowed to move out if you want, why aren't you allowed to vote?
I mean, a good point. Diego, what do you say?
You know, I'm at a similar level because I feel that lowering the voting age of 16 brings the responsibilities to be consistent across the board. You know, I use the example that you can marry your MP, you can vote them into as party leader, but you can't vote for them, which isn't consistent, doesn't really make sense to me.
Yeah, that is good perspective. Do you have support from any of the federal party leaders, or I should say the federal parties, when it comes to lowering the voting age based on this latest legal challenge? Cheryl, if you want to take that one.
Well, the parties haven't spoken about this particular challenge, but we do know that the NDP and the Green Party actually do support a lower voting age. And I also want to say that even though 16 is an age that both Parker and Diego cite, our applicants are as young as 12. And what neuroscience tells us is that young people sort of develop this ability to make these kinds of decisions anywhere between 14 and 16, if we're looking at competence. And then the last point is that all the major parties in Canada allow membership and voting within the party at age 14.
So that is a great point. You can join one of the federal parties and choose the leader as young as you say, 14, but you can't vote for them in a federal election. Cheryl, one other question for you here. You talked a bit about what you believe to be the strengths of this argument or legal challenge. And often in cases, you know, there are perhaps examples, sometimes case law, but examples from around the world. Are there examples around the world in which young people have the right to vote that may strengthen your case?
Yes, there are a number of countries that do allow the vote for at 16 and even a couple at 14. The one that's most comparable to Canada would be Scotland, that they lowered the voting age at the time of the referendum for independence, and they lowered it to 16, and then they kept it at 16 for the subsequent elections. Wales has now recently lowered its voting age to 16. So there are a number of countries that actually have lower voting ages than Canada.
And Parker, since you are a resident Ontarian here in the group, maybe I will quickly leave it with you. I know that this is a court challenge, so we'll go through that process. But people at home listening to you, and some of the applicants as part of this challenge are as young as 12. What misconceptions do you think some adults like myself and others out there have about younger people and their ability to make decisions about their country?
Well, I think many adults, especially ones who do vote and are very involved in politics, don't think that younger youth in Canada are able to vote just because of maturity and think that they think it's a joke. But I think when it comes down to it, as a youth myself, we want what's best for us and we know what's best for us. So if we got the right to vote, we would not take it as a joke. We would take it very seriously because we'll know that one vote can change everything and it'll be like, you know, we will be affected by who is put into parties. So.
And I think you've proven, Parker, you and Diego and the youths who have joined you, this is not a joke. Certainly, you're all very engaged. So thank you to the two of you and Cheryl as well. No doubt this is a process we will continue to follow. So thank you for your time and your engagement. All the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.